Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video. This conversation had me diving into an exciting topic that we've been yet to explore on this channel very much: social learning and communities. Our guest today is Alex, who shared insights about his work with Humble Mind, a community dedicated to fostering social learning experiences. Throughout this interview, we covered the importance of social learning, how it differs from traditional methods, and the unique way Alex and his community are driving meaningful interactions and personal growth. We also touched on the challenges and benefits of integrating social learning into organisational settings. I'm looking forward to sharing this conversation with you, so stay tuned as we uncover the impact of social learning and how it can transform the way we connect, learn and grow together. Hi everyone, I'm super excited to have Alex here with us today. I'm going to let Alex do his introduction. We are going to be speaking about social learning and communities though, which is pretty exciting because we haven't spoken about that yet on this channel. So Alex, tell me a little bit about what you're doing with Humble Mind, your community, and why you started it in the first place, and a little bit of background for the people watching today, really curious about social learning.
Yeah, great. Absolutely. Thank you. And lovely to be here, Bianca. Really happy to be speaking to you. So I'll try not to ramble because there's sort of so much as often happens. But just firstly, my name's Alex. I've got 3 kids. I'm originally from South Africa. I live in Spain and I am a lifelong entrepreneur, mostly because I think I'm a pretty bad employee. But I think I just
join the club.
chasing my own coattails, clearly. I have a huge interest in human skills, developing humans, working with people. You know, sometimes people work with products, they work with art, they work with numbers. I work with people. And for me, the greatest little spark that comes alive within me is the intersection between learning and community interactions, interactions between people. And I think that there's a wonderful kind of growing bit of attention on that nexus, on that intersection between learning and community, between professional and personal development. And that's what I do. I build communities.
Humble Mind builds social learning programs in an intimate, engaged community setting, ideal for skills development, uncovering customer insights, or cultivating influence. Humble Mind's approach to building focused, close-knit community experiences provide a new way to accelerate product development, generate new insights and opportunities in a unique social learning environment people love being part of. Check them out today.
I work a lot of the time with startups and organizations, one-on-one with founders on their communication, on how they're developing their message, on their storytelling, which is my favorite kind of human skill. But like I said, that's just one of sort of many human skills, like creativity, problem solving, empathy, listening. There's so many of them. And I feel that each of them have, you could really dedicate a whole university degree to each of them, just the research, the efficacy, how to do it, how to get better at it. And yeah, that's in a sense what my community is all about. So Humble Mind itself is a social learning company where, we're connecting social learning experiences and a kind of a unique community facilitation format within which to host that. And we go out and we develop social learning programs for businesses within that community setting. But also we've got our own community. We drink the Kool-Aid, which is the Humble Mind community, which I'm very happy to say that you're part of as well. And there's a podcast attached to that where we run that a little bit differently as well. There's a sort of a community element to the podcast. People get to join our podcast live where, we have a chance to look at the topics and the conversations that matter and allow a diverse set of opinions and perspectives to come up out of that, which is the first most important thing of getting a thriving social community working. So that's a little bit about what I'm busy with.
Amazing. I mean, as an educator, we all know that one of the best ways to see if somebody's learned something is if they can apply it. And how do they apply it? Well, there's a couple of ways they do that. And some of that is by interacting with others and testing their ideas. And so the social learning element of the online space especially has been there in the background, but I'd say it's kind of the poor cousin. It's the thing that gets neglected the most. From my work for the last 6-7 years in digital learning, very rarely do I get a client who really does actually understand what it means to bring social learning in at the forefront and actually have that as a pillar. So I guess my question is to you, how's the sell on this? Because social learning is the thing that everyone says they want, but often find it really hard to do it. So what are you finding as the conversations you're having with these leaders about community-driven learning?
It's a great question. And predictably, It's not an easy sell. And I think that there's a few reasons for that. I think firstly, it's still kind of nascent in a way. It's still a sort of an early, relatively new idea, I think, especially when you're fusing the learning with the social part of it. Even though it's been happening for a while, I think that for people to think that they can make a safe decision to replace a lot of their big company training kind of budgets with this stuff. Oh, okay, we're doing this now. That's where it needs a bit more explanation. I think also, to be fair, social learning is something that happens, or rather that takes shape as a result of the ingredients that are in the soup. You know, it's also something that kind of needs to come together and bakes in the oven. And you're not always completely in control of all of those elements, which is great, which is why I think it's a craft. You know, I think it's like any great artistic discipline. There's an element of kind of needing to get the elements right, you know, and then putting them in and sort of seeing what happens, because you don't know who is going to be on your webinars. You don't know what the topics are going to be about. You don't know the quality of the speakers. You don't know how you're going to be putting these things into practice, which is, like you said, rightly, it's all about learn by doing. So the conversations are interesting, but I always tie it back to, well, what do you want your people to be doing? And what are they not doing now? What are the results that they're missing out on? The things that they're kind of falling short on. And then, of course, we get a 20-minute conversation in that direction. And I find that almost always, all of the things that I hear a lot of customer success sales leaders talk about is almost always sort of human performance related. Yes. Whether it's numbers, whether it's opportunities missed, whether it's education on certain sectors, whatever it might be, there's always something in there that comes down to, yeah, it's because, you know, we've not had enough empathy training, for example, or our people aren't listening well enough to briefs, or we're not really able to create a good sense of rapport in a digital channel, you know. Yep. And so all of these things kind of, I find, boil down often to those things. And then it's a much easier conversation to have, because that's where social learning helps you to do these things, specifically in those to help to remedy and improve those kinds of skills areas. You know, if we want to go and get a maths degree or go and study rocket science or something like that, of course, social learning is not the right tool. But when it comes to enhancing the way that we communicate, the way that we're able to express something, the way that we can make somebody on the other side of a Zoom call feel a certain way, then the social learning, I think, is the only way to do it.
It has to be interaction. And I do see time and time again when we see these indicators and outcomes and objectives laid out by organizations around communication, around thinking, yet there's nothing inside of the assessment or the actual learning that shows that they're going to be able to do any of that. But there's a false sense of security, I think, with a lot of organizations in the compliance checkbox training, which is why I guess you're saying you're coming up against, it is a hard sell. And that's why I'm so excited that you're out there doing it, because we haven't at OPEDA been able to have the energy to sell that element of the digital experience. We're out there just trying to convince people that PowerPoints are still not online learning. So yay for you. That's why I really hope we get to work on something together soon, because it is a different kind of conversation, because what you're doing is you're also challenging, even at the highest level, what is it that you actually need? And so often when people come to me, they already know what they want to deliver and they've got some sort of budget and they're just telling me to put it together. I don't really get a conversation about what is it that you actually need. And I think if you're getting in at those points, you're actually going to be selling the idea that actually human skills have to be practiced by humans. So many times we build courses and for people to sit in isolation with no interaction. And I have not found anyone yet who can tell me how you can teach critical thinking in an online self-paced course. You can't teach critical thinking in an online self-paced course. Yeah. Because critical thinking means being challenged in your thinking.
Yeah, completely. You took the words out of my mouth. And I think that there's so much great information out there or knowledge out there in courses, which makes sense and it's good advice, you know, but unless it has the channel to be able to be actioned and shared and also interrogated between people, then it never gets leveled up to the point where, okay, this is something I can start doing. This is wisdom I can practice. This is, you know, something I can engage people on, because it doesn't have a chance to be tested, right? I think part of it as well is, I think there are two things. The first that makes the sell part a little easier as well is really in the social proof. Now, this is, you know, classic stuff from e-commerce, you know, always get people who are buying from you to help to push the message out there for you. But that's also why the community element makes a big difference here, because if we can, part of, you know, growing a community and developing it, which is really hard work on its own.
Oh, that's off to you.
Is about also kind of like focusing the attention on your kind of core inner circle, your loyal sort of 20, 30, 40 people who are able to give more time to it and able to really sort of see, wow, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I want.
Yep.
And to get them to help to kind of carry that message out, to sort of empower them so that they can champion some of the things that you're working on. And that helps to obviously spread the message, but it helps to put a different face, a different voice other than your own one on it.
Yes,
I get tired of
course.
hearing my own voice talking all the
Yeah.
time. So it's nice to have a bit of that too. Yeah.
And that's what's really interesting about your model, because you've got multiple content approaches, but also community-driven strategy as well. Like, I've really appreciated over the last year since being in the community, so many times you've reached out to us and said, hey, what do you guys need? Here's some feedback. Because you're actually practicing what you preach by being community-driven. You have a vision, and then you're just letting the vision take hold. And that is something that I just wish more organizations would be able to trust in the learners that they have in the room to tell you what they need and how they need to go through. Now, there are obviously certain areas where that does not work because there are compliance and we have to teach what we have to teach. But what's super exciting about this move to community models is that we are looking at this at a much bigger picture. We're saying, hey, what is learning again? And we're having that conversation, which in the online world for the last few years, I've been saying, okay, guys, like, just so you know, like, my brand is, I know I speak a lot about online, but I'm not like a full advocate for this. I'm just trying to help people use the digital tools in this hybrid blended life that we now have. And how do we educate through it? Because in actual fact, we are losing a lot of learning in the process. And I know that for a fact because I know what is being produced out there, even from what we are able to produce. I don't know how much learning is happening because we've taken people out of that classroom, out of that community.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I'm not at all a studied educator or have any kind of major experience in learning and teaching, but I have a massive fascination around learning. And I always find, because I'm always a book devourer and I'm always reading and learning about something. And I always find that the best learning takes place when you're having fun and when you're connecting with the subject. And so with social learning, I find that the best learning, if you like, or picking up skills, picking up little insights and things that happen, while we're spending time together, happens when people are able to connect with each other. Without the connection, there isn't that sense of shared space that we share in a classroom, in a virtual classroom. There isn't the ability for trust and bond building to emerge, which is absolutely critical.
Absolutely.
And a sense of psychological safety. It's really important to say that, because if I feel strongly about a certain topic and someone else on the call is saying something and I have to disagree. It's important for me to say this. I'm not going to do that. And everyone else is going to benefit from what I say. I'm not going to do that if I don't feel like this is the place for it. If I don't feel like there's a sense of safety here, that it's not going to go further. So when you're building a community learning experience, you have to really have a strong kind of sense of what are the hallmarks? What are the areas that we're going to agree to in order to preserve the integrity of this space, this container together? We've got to be willing to experience things and willing to ask questions. We've got to have an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah.
We've got to be,
be humble.
be humble. Absolutely. Yeah. We've got to be having a kind of a loose hierarchy, and it's fun when you mix people in different positions and different sort of settings, because then you really do get different results. But no hierarchy. Everyone can contribute. Everyone's equal here. It's okay if we don't agree. We've got to do the work, those sorts of things that you put out there so that everyone understands the space they're entering. And when you get that agreement, then interesting things happen. But without it, it's very hard to feel like people can connect, which is that key element.
Which is where it falls down in big organizations, because asking them to dismantle hierarchy is like asking them to cut off their arms. So, that's something that is tricky. And I guess from your perspective, from the members that I've seen inside of Humble Minds, is a lot of them come from big companies and they're doing this outside of hours, right? Yep. And I think that's what's super great as a leader, is that there's spaces that we can go into and humble ourselves also and learn new things with other people who are, in this space. And the conversations that we've had through Humble Minds about AI and what's coming, and that's the theme of your community. And we are sharing the burden of the stresses. There's also the excitement around it. And it's been a place where people can come to learn together outside of their workplace and outside of maybe their regular lives. Has that been a true representation of what you've found in the community?
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I'm just beaming inside from the fact that you're saying that, because I think when you're building a business or a community, you're always kind of like, you've only got your own viewpoint. And
Yeah,
when you hear other people starting to sing the same song, it's
yeah,
unbelievably gratifying. So I'm seeing that, and I'm so
good.
happy to hear that you're seeing that. And some things are working. That's really good. But I
Good.
think it also, just thinking about this as an education tool, which I absolutely believe it
Mm,
is that it also forces us to kind of re-examine what we mean when we talk about education in a community setting, because it
yes.
is a little bit different. In a course, for example, like you were saying, if I want to take a course on public speaking, or if I want to take a course on, responsible people management, whatever it might be, I'm going to go through those modules. I'm going to do it at a certain pace. I'm going to maybe do some assessments along the way. I'm going to maybe remember a couple of key things, maybe a quote, maybe a number, and there
Yep.
might be certain outcomes that at the end I can, say that I'm able to now practice. In a community setting, depending on how it's structured, but in a community setting, it's quite different,
Mm,
because the learning happens less on a content level. I now have the certification. I
yep.
now know how to, diffuse a conflict situation, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But now it's about sort of the benefit that you, or rather, let me rephrase, the benefit comes from you being able to aggregate the different experiences and opinions and perspectives that everyone has as part of a facilitated discussion
Mm-hmm.
over a period of time. That's
Mm-hmm.
why the learning, community learning has to have an element of reinforcement in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the regularity. It's not just about showing up once and going, okay, it's about building those bonds and getting to know the people, because then the learning increases as well. And am able to better aggregate the things that people are saying and the different opinions that I'm hearing, so that it can influence my own, but it can also challenge my own as
Yeah.
well. So the learning and the ability to reflect that in your behavior also changes. And it's a journey I'm on, and still trying to really find out exactly how that's, going to look at the end. But I think that, yeah, once again, bringing it back to these human skills, it's the only way to kind of really improve those sorts of behaviors in the long term.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's coming to my mind as you've been speaking is a lot of people claim that they're lifelong learners. And
Mm.
I sometimes kind of hear that and I'm like, yeah, you say that. Because really, if you are a lifelong learner, then those kind of community elements will be a major part of that, in the sense that you get to go in and challenge yourself. And not many people are willing to do that, just to go in
Mm, mm,
and be kind of vulnerable and share
mm,
and express themselves and be challenged and listen to the
mm.
other side. And so I think that this whole community learning thing is a great way to sort of say to these lifelong learner people that say they are, come and join in.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? Put your 2 cents worth into this conversation, engage with people that you wouldn't normally engage with, and see how you go. Because for me, that's the exciting part, because I think I am a true lifelong learner, but I think this is where we need to go, because it will balance out this solo kind of learning, click, click, click in your bedroom
yes,
in isolation. We need to balance that out, because this is not
totally.
going to help everybody. Yeah, we're in trouble if we continue down this path, that this self-paced rubbish all
Yeah.
the time, where you can just click through and get the chatbot now to do your assessments and off you go.
COVID, remember that? It kind of gave us a blessing and a curse, didn't it? Well, many. But the first was the fact that, okay, now we're always on screens, we're always on Zoom
Yeah.
calls, we're always, in front of the same people, but just at home alone. So it's this weird dichotomy of being alone, but never alone at the same time. It also made us, I think, a lot more receptive to online learning and different formats and different techniques, which is a good thing. But like I said, we have to reassess what learning really means, because when you're in a social learning environment, I'm not learning only about the content being discussed, but I'm learning, there's a sort of a second layer of learning as well. For example, I'm learning to kind of listen to what the other person is saying. I'm filtering what they're saying through my own knowledge and my own experience. I'm perhaps learning how to debate and defend a position in a specific way. I'm perhaps learning how to also motivate what I'm saying by being as clear as I can in my communication. So, you're learning things, but you're learning skills
Oh
as
yeah.
well. And that's the key thing.
I think that's a great place to end, because I think my last question would have been, what are you excited about social learning? So I'll give you that question if there's one more thing you want to say about, but I think we've kind of wrapped it in the sense of what we're excited about. What else
Yeah.
excites you about this space?
I mean, I'm really excited about what we're going to be doing as a community, as a business. where the podcast is going, really starting to improve, or not improve, but, get some amazing brains on there to talk to our community. So it's really growing in the right direction, and certainly a lot more than I thought it could have when I started it more than a year ago. One thing that I'm excited about, specifically in the format of learning in the community social learning setting, is the concept of accountability. And so, like you said, when you're doing a self-paced course, it's self-paced. Who am I going to need to answer to? Okay, maybe at the end of the month, I need to tell my boss that I've finished the course. Okay, but I've got a month to do that. I've got time. It's fine. And so it means that we're going to take the path of least resistance there. Whereas with social accountability, there's almost this element of positive peer pressure. Because if I'm showing up week on week and I'm doing things and I'm learning things and I'm starting to kind of make commitments to changing behavior and to shifting certain things that I know aren't good for me, or that I know I really should be improving or paying attention to, and other people are also going to be invested in that as much as they are in their own development, something beautiful happens. Something really important happens, which means I'm going to follow through. I'm going to actually act on this. So you're much more likely to put those things, once again, into practice, learn by doing, rather than letting it kind of slide until, okay.
And that is also one of the biggest downfalls of online learning. That's been the biggest downfall, is that accountability. And we are human beings who are always busy, always stressed, always have 100 things to do.
Yeah, that's constant.
And we have a lot of pressures on us, and they are all real and they are all valid. However, if we're not accountable to something with a deadline, with another person, like you said, waiting for you at the other end of the Zoom call, it's very difficult to keep pushing. So on that note, love it. This call's been great. Like I said, highlight of my day, because I've had one of those terrible computer days where I've just been staring into the abyss of a document. So thank you, Alex, for at least letting me end my day with a great, robust conversation with a human being talking about human skills, and a very humble one at that, creating a wonderful community called Humble Mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, wonderful to chat to you as always.
And until next time, stay awesome.